We're glad that you all came here and that you're interested in how board games can make the world a better place. I brought you a newspaper from today. It says that wind and solar energy are for the first time making more energy for Germany than it's made out of coal. So that's a major turning point, I think. And we want to talk about how even the board game industry changes environment, how it makes an impact on the environment, but how it makes an impact socially and for the people who produce board games and the people who play them. And we have Romina Schwark from Jumbo Games.
Hello.
We're from Taiwan, Chi Wai Lin. We have from Troisdorf, Germany, Rajive Gupta from Queen Games. And from Kummara company from Kummara Group in Indonesia, we have Nugroho. Thank you all for being here. This fair is about board games, and so no one would even bother thinking that board games have an impact on environment. Do they have an impact on environment, Romina Schwark?
Yes, I'm pretty sure we all have an impact on the environment when we are producing products. And yes, so Jumbo also thought about how can we be more sustainable, or what can we do with our games to be more environmental friendly.
Yeah, for Asia, it's kind of special that we use a lot of board games for education and schooling. So, for example, in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, a lot of schools uses board games. So, the theme, the message, it will send out through board games.
Rajiv, what do you think?
Well, I think one has to view the board gamers themselves. They are very game collectors. They like to buy games, don't like to throw them. So when we talk about sustainability of the board games, it's not the same thing as toys. Yeah, and I personally believe the toxic level used in printing and paste and paper, that is more important. Yeah, so we always, since our company exists since 30 years, we always valued the non-toxic level in our products instead of worry about people buy a game, throw them away. Yeah, so we are fortunate on that aspect.
Yes, of course. I mean, in my view, I think board game will have more impact through environment by using it as a medium to deliver message, what we should do in the future. In terms of product, you see, you buy this like for 20 euros and you can use it for 10 years. That's already been good for environment. But I think we need to look further than that. We can use this product to deliver bigger message for the coming future generation to care more about the environment.
I've seen a sheet, a large calculation from Hasbro, large company, and they are doing an annual report on their CO2 consumption in producing games, in producing toys, and they are dealing with certificates, with CO2 certificates, and they are almost on zero this year. However, their employees, I think they are using up 11,000 tons of CO2 just by business traveling. So that's a lot. And they have something here in our papers. Hasbro is trying to avoid plastic packaging by the end of 2022, and they have a system for taking back toys and games so that you can recycle them and give them back to the dealer. Romina, how does Jumbo handle sustainability?
Yeah, we are not so far as Hasbro that we are taking back games. And what you just said is that games are, well, people who are playing games, they are collecting it, they want to keep them, they want to have them. And even though if they are not willing to play them anymore, they're giving it to other people. And for us, logistically, first of all, we couldn't manage it because we are a very small company here in Germany, and also we have to think about, okay, is the logistical way taking back the games maybe even worse than just then throwing them away if the lifetime of a game is over?
You would have to work together with a retailer, that they have a center, wherever you put it, they take it back.
Yeah, this could be an option maybe, yeah. But then we should hope that he's buying a new game, so he's not just traveling to this location to give the game back.
You've just recently produced and presented a new series of eco-friendly games. What can you tell us about them?
Yes, we started this year and they came out in February, and they are made of 100% recyclable material. They are quite small. And we started with 4 easy, nice games, starting for kids at 3. And they don't have, for example, a rule book in there. You can see them online. The plastic is made out of, or is completely recycled. And we want to enlarge this line even further.
So you produce games that don't use up new resources, but it's made up of recycled material.
Yeah, you can see it here on the side. We try to explain it a bit. So there are plastic bottles, other plastic materials, and they are produced to a granulat, and then our material which is in there is made out of this plastic.
And there is no shrink wrap around it because you have small stickers.
Yes.
That is the packaging.
Yes.
What
Yes.
does it do?
The packaging is also made of 100% recyclable paper.
And is it produced in China or in
No,
where
in the Netherlands.
world?
In the Netherlands, in our company, it's called NSF, and there are also all our puzzles made, and also other own IPs and board games we produce there.
Because I remember Jumbo as a company that produced Stratego, big chunks of plastic, and you're doing Rubik's Cage this year. It's plastic. Is that recycled material too?
This is always an issue with when you have licensing and working with other companies together. And I don't know if you heard about it, but we lost the license for Rubik's until next year. But where we have our, how to say it, when it comes to our own IPs, our own games made from our product development team, there we really start to focus on recyclable material, trying to avoid plastic as much as we can. So also Stratego is a thing where we are now starting to work on and rethink the whole packaging and stuff.
We're talking about 30 years of Queen games this year.
Yes.
Congratulations. When you started out, the discussion was about Waldsterben in '89 and Sour Rain.
Right.
That has changed because we took another approach to how we are dealing with the environment, and we have filters in power plants and stuff. Yet the forest is sick because of heat waves. How do you produce games since then? How have you produced at the time you started with carom boards?
So I think first I like to put in a very relative perspective what sustainability of board games means. You gave an example of Hasbro. Now Hasbro has, I don't know what percent, but greater percent is in toy business. They sell in mass market, mass retail. Yeah, so we need to educate retail that they should buy games without blister packing. She said very rightly, there's no foil shrink wrapping on the game. Manufacturers like us are willing to provide that, but the consumer doesn't like a game which is little scratched. or retail doesn't want to have it because it can be open easily. Yeah? So these are certain behaviors of people that need to be changed. And as far as manufacture concerned, I'm sure the smaller, medium-sized manufacturer we are willing to adopt to the market, adopt to the need of sustainability, which I do distinguish. One is emotional aspect to it, one is commercial aspect to it, one is political aspect to it, and one is the natural, physical aspect to it. Now, when we talk about in general, at the moment we talk political aspect to it. Now, from Greta from Sweden, she goes to United Nations. Of course, she's emotional and she says something. No way I'm discrediting any comment she does. All of a sudden, we have a ocean plastic aspect. Now, we are in board game industry, and I think we stick to that. Luckily, our board games, cardboard it's not compatible with water. Yeah? Now, that's on the side. And like I earlier said, we produce games for collectors. And even they don't want to collect it, they still collect it. They like to tell their children afterwards, hey, I used to play these games.
Kommen Sie zu uns. Please welcome Jelena Kuhn of Bioviva Editions.
I'm so sorry for being late.
So I think we have to a little bit relate to what our means are. Now come back to your part. I was 30 years ago. I started our company from Essen. We have a 20 square meter booth. And I'm always grateful to Merz Verlag, Dominique and Max. Actually, Dominique's and Friedhelm Merz, that they gave us this possibility to be here. I learned a lot. We used to work with carom board. Now, especially coming from a country like India, this is where I was born, and environmental is not an issue, poverty is an issue. And people, those who struggle to feed their stomach in the evening or their family, you cannot educate them. Now you cannot bring the natural aspect to it. I come up here, that time, we didn't have an issue of plastic, we had an issue of wood and forest. So I learned that we use in our game, it's a lot of wood was used, and very quickly, within 1 year, we shifted our production in Germany that time. You use reforested wood, guaranteed. And there's a playing surface which was using thousands of cubic meter. And we went to Finland. And I learned in Finland that time they had messed up in 60s, 70s their forest to produce a lot of paper. And the cooperative, they create Finn Forest. And I was so impressed that they reforested everything and the way the wood was used. Yeah, it was more expensive, the commercial aspect of it. And I was asked, I put moral aspect to it and ethic aspect to it before the profitability. We still produce our games because of guaranteed toxic level in Germany or in Netherlands with NSF, like you mentioned. So I can understand what you say, how much work is done behind to use non-toxic paints. And on that note, I must say, I have a lifelong impact on one advertisement I saw in Germany that time. That's what Dr. Hip make children's food. And I have two sons, or we have two sons. And we didn't mind. We gave natural food, we cooked it, or that Hip food. Because he said, I stay with my name behind. You can give your children this food, will be non-toxic. So our games, that's why we produce with NSF as well, we know we can guarantee they're non-toxic stuff. Games get touched in the family, little kids, they will lick their hand. And it's Europe, when people eat, it's different hygienic, because it is hygienic country, they don't wash their hands before eating. Yeah. And like in India, we have to wash our hands because a lot of bacteria is in the atmosphere. So you take food, you eat it. So you can't swallow toxic along with it, if it's there any toxic. So that was our motto. So we use wood produced here, paint produced in Germany, in Bayern, and in Bavaria, yeah, and paper, cardboard, and we have a reliable source. When NSF tells us, we have all the reasons to believe we can rely on the material.
Short route from production to your offices, to your facilities.
Yes.
You were showing the, you were talking about plastic in the oceans is an issue. You produced a game about it, with the company Shepherd Kid in Taiwan. What can you tell us about Ocean Crisis? What is the aim of the game?
Okay, so to follow up what they both said, we tried something new this year. We tried 100% non-plastic. So in Taiwan, but for here we have to do the plastic shrink. So because we have to ship all the way here, but in Taiwan we tried out a shipment of 2,000 copies with no plastic at all. Everything inside there's no plastic because a lot of people who buy this game, Ocean Crisis, they are from like environmental groups. They cannot endure any plastic bit. Like for example, even if we have these Ziplocs, the zippers inside the small bags, we cannot use it because they will, I don't know, they are kind of active groups. They will protest, they will attack us, kind of. But I think that's not a bad way because that really forces us to think what we can do. So for Ocean Crisis, it began 2016. It was a half government project for the Environmental Bureau in Taiwan. But then we decided to make our own version and a larger version. In 2016-17, I think most of you guys saw a lot of social media about the ocean, which was a video about sea turtles. Yeah, I think that's a global issue that made hit the mass majority of people instead of those who cared about environment. So in Asian countries, for example, Taiwan is a small island. Taiwan is surrounded by ocean, which all the seashores are polluted by a lot of garbage. So the garbage, we don't produce it. It came from a lot from manufacturer from China. The garbage drifted to our coast, and then they stay there. So we are very fully aware of this issue. That's why we tried to do this. And then we talked to a lot of environmental groups, a lot of experts about ocean life, sea life, about this. And then we added like a garbage issue for most, plastic garbage especially. And then we added animals like sharks, whales, who we often see on the news. They get beached, and then their stomach is full of garbage. And then sea turtles, they started to have their little babies hatched with a lot of garbage along the seashore. I think maybe a lot of people saw that too. So that's our process of making this game. And then afterwards, it's kind of like an experiment because this is our first time handling environment actually, but schools in Taiwan, they buy a lot. So right now, just in Taiwan, we sold to more than 600 schools. So that means like
So the game will be used for educational purposes, raising awareness for environmental issues.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting because eventually, for me, when I was doing the research, I found out there wasn't so much material about the ocean environment. There wasn't so much material for studying, for learning. So I think that's why the schools love this because there's not much about this. So instead they use this, though it's like a little bit complicated for the classroom. But then this September, we produced like a mini version of this to fit into the classroom. So yeah, that's what we did all the way from 2006 until now.
And now you even did a cooperation with Greenpeace on this game?
Yeah, because we did a Kickstarter actually this April, and afterwards in August I think, Greenpeace from Middle East, the Middle East region Greenpeace, which headquarters is in Turkey. They contacted us. They said they loved what we did. They want to do the board game. They want to use board game as education tools in Turkey. So the guy, he actually flew to Taiwan, and we met up in Taiwan. We're still thinking what we can do. We're still talking about how to cooperate, but I think it's a very good idea that these environmental groups or education groups we can work with them, and not only the manufacturer, but like something to reach out, the theme, the idea, the message. And that was pretty exciting. And in September, because we did a lot of education stuff, but this one was pretty big, and we had a chance to talk to the president of Taiwan about what we're doing with the games. So I think that's like, because board games in Taiwan are not like a long history like in Germany, but then it's an opportunity to show that board games have their use, maybe for recreation, but now for education as well.
Jelena, Kuhn, I think that is the thought behind Bioviva editions too.
Yes, I'm totally agree with what you are saying right now, because actually Bioviva has been founded in 1996 by our founder Jean-Thierry Wanstel, who he wanted to make a game to sensibilize children about environmental issues, and for him the game is really powerful to help the kids to approach to these subjects and to learn, to link with it, and then to be able to protect it.
You're producing totally environmental friendly?
Yes.
You leave everything out, with this plastic toxic glue and everything?
Yes, our games are made in France. Everything is made in France at 100 kilometers from our office. And all our games are eco-designed. So for us, that means a lot of things. Actually, we are trying to always improve our way of production. And that means a lot of things. For example, we only use wood and paper, which is FSC certified. So it's a label I think you know, and which means that the trees come from sustainable forests. And then we have the label Origine France Guarantee, which is a very important label in France, which means that at least 55%, for us it's nearly 100% of the materials comes from the country. And we use inks that are based on plants. So we are trying to always make better formats, so we lose less paper. And there is, we actually, we just made a life cycle analysis of our games to improve even more our way of production and to know how we can get it better every day.
That is the production side. How about the theme side? The games are about environment and teaching how to be careful with the environment.
Yes, we have two different groups of products, I would say. We have a group of product who is really about environment. So how can children learn about a lot of about environment? So they might discover animals which are disappearing. They will learn how that it is important to protect the beach and to put the bin in the garbage. And there are a lot of games about environment. That's actually the mission behind Bioviva, to make them discover the beauty of our nature, to give them the chance to protect it. And then we also have a product group which is more about their relation to themselves, because if they want to protect the nature, they also need to take care of themselves. So that's...
Nugroho brought a game too, Akatara, that is about solar energy.
Yes, the game basically used to promote the use of renewable energy, and the game is designed specifically because in Indonesia there is one island called Sumba. The island has become iconic island where the island will be powered fully by renewable energy. But there is a problem. The community around Sumba is not yet understand the importance of having this kind of energy, and so when we invest a lot of tools and everything into the islands, the level of understanding is still very low. So one of the organizations that work with the government asking us whether we can help them to put this awareness and educational thing about why the renewable energy is important. So we designed this special game. But talk about game as was what we have talked about. Then we understand that the game is important medium. I mean, how we design the game, how the game deliver the message. But it is also really important to make people understand how to use it very well. So our game is always designed for the, for when it's for the educational purpose, we not only design the game, we also design what we call the game-based learning protocol, so that the teacher or the parents really able to use it and very well. So the game as Akatara is designed, and also we implemented together with a game-based learning program for the teacher all over Sumba. So the teachers, we not only give the game, we really teach the teachers how to use the game, and then we really monitor how it's the impact of the game and so on. And that's, we have very positive result. And since that, basically, our company, our group of company decide to establish a foundation. We put like 20% of our profit. We built a foundation specifically to teach teacher and parents on how use a game as learning medium. So then, my point is that we need to look game as bigger thing. I mean, production and everything that's good for environment is important, but we need to see its potential to deliver more message. And I think it's not only about producing a good game. We need also to educate people how to use it very well, because then we have unlimited potential to use.
So they get the most out of it.
Yes.
Would that be something for your foundation? Because Bioviva has a foundation too.
Yes,
already?
Bioviva has a foundation which wants to give games to children who have a difficult situation, like for example refugees or kids who are living in poverty, who don't have access to education. And we started one project 2 years ago, and now we already offered 50,000 games to refugee children in Syria, in Lebanon, and in other countries. And we are right now thinking about new projects which we would like to start. So
that would be cool. Yeah. So we now have like around 400 teachers that become our alumni. So we have a program every month to teach teacher how to use a game, any game. We call it a game-based learning program. Basically, it's a protocol. It's a way of using any kind of game that's available in the market to be a learning tools. And then we have every 2 months what we call game design for teacher and parents, where they can design their own concept to be a game. So now we have alumni like almost 400. We expect to have like 1,000 in the first semester next years. And then can you imagine that? So we will have 1,000, and then at the end of next year we have 2,000 teachers that has capability to use any kind of games. I mean, especially board game in their learning class.
But 2,000 it's not a lot in a large country like Indonesia.
Yes, we need more, and honestly, but our foundation is a little bit small, to our 260 million. So I hope all of the guys in this room also would like to join us. I mean, we need at least 100,000 teachers who have capability to deliver. And then once we have these teachers, if you want to say environment-friendly game, you can distribute it directly, and you can see the impact immediately. You want to bring issue about something else, but we have this game about peace and tolerance. It's already deployed all over Indonesia, and it's become one of the most innovative game of UNDP. Now we're experimenting with the pool recycling games, and we will provide what we call prototype kit for teacher to design game based on recycled materials. So, I mean, and then we will move along the way, but we will build this capacity around.
Rajive.
If I may come back to the original point, sustainability of products. And now, and the games, that's the second point, game as a media, to bring the message to people on environment. And a game has been traditionally, I learned how to play game and made my profession as a publisher, my hobby as a publisher. Because it's a very strong media, I learned to socialize people. I come from 900 cousins and a big family, so there was never a shortage of playing games. In our one marriage, we have 2,000 people, so there's never a shortage of communication. When I came to Germany, I was asked when I started carom board, why I do carom board, because I'm learned textile technologist, what I'm doing in gaming business. Because I remembered my childhood, how family sat down together like we do demos here. So we have 3-4 layers of people wanting to play next one. And so it's a social media, and our gamers, my experience of 30 years, are very generous people. Yeah, they're willing to pay if you offer them this environmental friendly prospect and products to them. Yeah? So price is never an argument. It's the willingness of the companies. Are they willing to compromise their profits to produce in cheaper countries and don't care about toxic level? Over here, my worst or probably the strangest experience I faced, I will not name a company, a retailer, big retailer. I walked into there with my buyer. About 10 meters, 5 to 10 meters behind the children's department, I could smell formaldehyde, which is used in games, and a strange smell when you open some of the games, very toxic. So I asked him, why you have these products? We are in Germany. I said, because I can sell big box for 10 euros. Yeah? And we buy it for €2, €2.50, yeah? From China or wherever it was.
So there's a large margin.
Yeah, margin was there, but I think the point was they didn't care at that time. The target groups are mothers, and they want to buy children's game for the children. It'll end up in a family. Yeah? And the way of thinking has to be changed, which is where I think is the...
It will end up in a... Sorry, sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think our consumers in Germany and in Austria, Switzerland, or in the Netherlands, they are starting to rethink, and that's really good because it has to come also from both sides. So we are inventing and making these games, but they also have to be, taken from our consumers. That
I couldn't agree more than what you say, but the middleman, the retailer, has to also provide that means.
How much do they have to change? How much do they have to accept? If you say there are no zipper bags anymore, and maybe there are even no more plastic miniatures in a big strategy game, we have been used to better and better graphics and better material in the games. Will we have to step back from that?
Yeah, but are we not confusing the use of cotton plastic bags, which people use it and throw them away, one-time use? Then to miniature, probably they may go into the next generation. Or dice, they don't get thrown away. People just buy dice to collect them because it's nice to feel with them. So I think we have to be very careful. This is what I mentioned right in the beginning as a political issue. At the moment, it's a political issue worldwide. Yeah, whatever reason it is. Now, I won't like to go into detail because that's not the purpose of this panel. So we must be careful to throw everything together by saying because media is talking about environment, so all games are with using plastic are bad games. I think we should be very careful with that. The main concern at the moment, in my eyes, I talked to NSF, the producent, in detail, how can we get the foil, shrink wrap foil, which is, I think it is a must product, otherwise we have a lot of damages, is the cost factor, and how we can use this different foil system. And I've been in contact with some foil manufacturer. They have this recyclable, non-plastic foils. They're working on it. Yeah, and I know NSF, they're working on it too. And within half a year, 1 year, we have certain solution over there. That is the point that we should think more about and concern about some sustainability. And very important point. Now, you mentioned Hasbro before, or big companies, and board games, the cover has been accepted, at least in Germany, that it is not a packaging. The cover box is part of a game.
The box art and the box itself.
Mm-hmm. There was a big discussion with German Green Point, which is like a recycling company. They wanted gaming company to pay money for it, for recyclable. The boxes are not recyclable. They are accepted. Sorry, I must correct my word. Boxes are not taken to be thrown away, to be recycled. Mm-hmm. That's part of a game which maintains at home, the original point. So when we create a box, come back to the point, what toxic level we use. It's not a children's toy. The sword, Star Wars sword is packed in a corrugated box. A child take a sword off, laser sword off, and throw the box away. That has to be, make sure that's not...
That has to be changed, in your opinion.
That has to be changed. That is like creating pollution or creating environmental.
Jelena, Kuhn, what are your experiences when leaving away the shrink wrap? Are there lots of complaints?
Yes, actually we have, when we have very small boxes for card games, we don't put the plastic around it. We found a solution, we put some small stickers, so that allows us to close the game, so the people, when they buy it, they can be sure that everything is inside. But it also allows it to avoid plastic around the game, so it's only really card and paper. And I think it hasn't been easy in the beginning because the people are not used to it, but now today it's not a problem anymore. The people are used to it now, and they understand why we did it like this, and now it's actually an advantage because they like this kind of thinking.
And the sticker you use is a paper sticker or a plastic sticker?
It's a paper sticker.
It's a paper sticker.
Yeah.
Even there, they have all paper inlays. Do you have foldable stuff in your boxes?
Yes, when we have big boxes, we don't use the plastic inlays, which you know in a lot of games, which you can see in a lot of games. But we created a paper inlay, which allows to put away every part of the game, as well as a plastic inlay. But you can.
Well,
It's all of
that since 20 years.
Sorry?
We have been using cardboard inlays since 20 years.
Is all of this sufficient?
Yeah, so this is exactly, at the moment, we have a new wave of being sustainable and be eco-friendly. Yeah, and
Which is a good thing.
I find when certain companies come up, we've been doing that since 20 years. We created our own logo called Green Games. Yeah.
Queen Games, Green Games.
Yeah, we worked with NSF so that we could have that. And we don't produce in China, one of this reason. Ocean is I think there's an eco-balance. You give a CO2 from Hasbro. I didn't calculate because we don't have that kind of money to pay somebody to work out what CO impact we have. But I know from my conscience, my product is not traveling over ocean for 6 weeks long for the raw materials so that I can save 10% of my cost. And so that, I think, is very important to distinguish between what is sustainability factor and plastic foil, like you said very correctly. We try to use it when you put in the box. Coincidence, our games on average weighs 2 kilo to 6 kilos. So if you have a 6 kilo, 6 games packed together, they will damage. Yeah, and consumer is not willing, because games cost 50, 60, 100 euros. They're not willing to accept dent in a cardboard or scratch on a painting, which is their right. They're paying us full money. I don't also accept torn away 100 euro note. So we want full money, and they have a right to get full product.
I wanted to ask something else. Do we need a certificate? Because FSC certified wood, recycled material. Do we need an environmental certificate for games? Like a sticker on it, a paper sticker, of course?
We invented our own.
Is that globally accepted?
Yeah, we hope it will be. Yeah, but I think you need a kind of certificate that the buyer sees right away. Okay, this is made of 100% recyclable material. It's like the same with STEM. If you are producing a game which has this topic, there's also no one certificate, but kind of everyone agreed on one certificate which has been used for now.
So I'm sure, Frank, what you want to distinguish between throwaway plastic or throwaway material, yeah?
Or to tell something about the production process.
Yeah, if you're concerned about 20 years later, dice might get thrown, yeah, and produce a game without plastic at all, I'm sure I've not worked out what the cardboard after 20 years will have an impact on atmosphere. Mm-hmm. Like as we started with forest, now actual theme is plastic. 20 years later will be something else. And I come from textile. I must mention one thing. 80% clothes in Europe are used with plastic, one form or the other. So all fashion industry, those who bring every 3 months new clothes, old clothes have to be thrown away. That one has to think about, where does that end up?
So it's better to
Gaming is
give.
a culture, good media, and I think
So it's better to give a used game to a friend so that he can game on with it.
people do it. I mean, I've never seen. Many times in flea market, I go there, I find people have our 20 years old published game that I love to. I bought some of games back. Yeah, because we didn't have it in our archive. And this guy realized it, and he said, well, it's 50 euros. I looked at him, I said, I sold it for 10 euros that time. But you have it 50 euros, because he realized I needed that.
Yes, Eco.
But I think I need to provide another perspective, because I mean, from the side of producent, we can always like remove the plastic or produce a better material and so on and so on. But we produce something depend on what people want, correct? So what the customer wants.
No,
correct?
I don't agree with you. I think if that's the case, if that's the case,
okay.
I think big companies have enough power,
Yeah.
marketing power, to convince people that this is what they want.
Correct.
My second
Correct.
qualification was in marketing.
Correct.
Yeah, and
So-
we were told how
Stop,
you convince
Rajiv,
people what they
Rajiv,
want.
Okay. Yeah, okay. But my point is that, and now, related with the topics of our panels, and how board game makes a better world, I think what we need to do is, just you mentioned, we need to use our game as a marketing tools to change people's perspective about that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, we can talk over and over how to reduce plastic in our material, fine, but when everybody just want to wrap it in plastic, what we can do? We can, but with your argument, I mean, why don't we think about to use our game as a marketing tool to really educate people that this is a worth thing to do and we need to start
The
it.
difference in probably Indonesia and probably in Taiwan, like
Correct.
in your board game companies, game is turned as educational games.
Correct.
Whereas in older, I call it companies, game is socializing, fun, strategy, and learning process.
I think the game needs to be both. It needs to
Yes,
be
that's
it
my
needs
point
to be
too.
fun, and it needs to be
And it needs to be-
educational,
Yes.
and
Correct.
it also needs to be responsible and eco-designed. I think you
I
have to.
couldn't
that's-
agree more than that.
That's what Bioviva does since
Correct.
23 years now. That was actually the first idea of our founder, who was. He was like, "This is what I want to do," and that's how we.
If the game is no fun, it won't be
I think
played.
it's for larger companies like Queen Games. I have a lot of Queen Games actually. It's very different from us. Like we're like indie publishers, more or less. Well, we're in Hall 5, for example.
I think you're confusing larger company with big heart.
There is
We have a
No,
very large heart.
I mean, you can have a lot of production changes that will affect, like you've produced maybe 100,000 of games each year. I'm not sure about that, but for us, like we try to focus on smaller things. I mean, not about the message itself. But I agree with you for one major point, which is I think it's very important. If we keep the quality good, the game lasts. Okay, so the game lasts. From what I've learned from a lot of environmental groups, I asked them, for example, for myself, we have a lot of those drinks in Taiwan that we buy little cups, straws. So for every person, maybe they consume like 500,000 straws each year. So I asked environmental specialists, okay, so do you think plastic is evil? So I asked them personally because I always wondered what is good and what is bad. The answer is, I asked a lot of people. The answer is, if you can use them over and over again, then it's good. For example, a plastic bag. If you can use them over and over again, then the plastic bag has full potential. Even with plastic, it's not bad. So I think that stands for games. If we can make them stand. For example, we have some of other companies in Asia, they produce like very, very cheap stuff. So those cheap stuff is like, I don't know, the material is cheap, it breaks actually, and maybe the whole making of the game is cheap. A lot of the consumers, they buy it as consumer products. Like fast consuming products, they play it once, twice, throw it away. Okay, so there are a lot of games like this produced by small publishers, which I think is terrible. So for us, for example, we produce only 1 game or 2 a year, and we want to set the quality high, which our production cost is pretty high. For now, I don't know how to solve it, but we just convince our consumers. So same as maybe Queen Games and Jumbo, we have to persuade our consumers this kind of game is good in some certain way. So not just the topic, the theme is good, but also a good making will make maybe the children or the players, they will love to collect it and keep it. So I think that's a very good, a very important point in a more general environmental point of view. Not just, this is nothing expert or nothing high-end, it's just a way of thinking it. So how can we make something that lasts and people will like to keep it? And yeah, that's my experience. So that's what we can do as like Hall 5 exhibitors.
Thank you
We are
so
in
much.
Hall 5 too.
Yeah, I saw you.
I was an alumni of Hall 6, so now we moved to Hall 3 by accident.
Lucky.
Yeah, I was like, but just to add a little bit, I mean, because the topic is about how board game makes a better world. I mean, I think environment is very important topic. I agree. I mean, but if we just narrow to environment issue, I mean, then I don't want to neglect the potential of board game as a whole. That's my point. I mean, I was spending like 2 months in MIT last year, and one professor of MIT asking me, "Eko, you live in Indonesia. You have so many disasters. Why don't you make a game to make people more aware about that?" And I go back. It's true. We have 2,000 disasters in just 6 months. So we design a game and work with the government about this disaster management. So our board game can help people to understand that. And then I work in Australia with some people. Eko, we have this depression stigma is getting higher and higher in youth. Why don't you create something? So we have it now. The game is implemented to bring more awareness about depression, and it's implemented in Singapore, Australia, and Indonesia now. My point is, if we want to talk about how board game make a better world, it's have a lot of potential. And then now we combine game and digital application to measure about critical thinking capability, and that should be a reduced radicalism around young people. So of course, environmental issue is good, but imagine if us as publishers also think game as a medium to deliver many messages to our young people. I mean, that could be something. You can talk about tolerance, you can talk about peace, you can talk about something else, still to be fun. And still to be enjoyable with the whole family. I mean, why don't Queen Game makes a line of games about cultural difference, for example? Why don't
I like to add one.
That's a challenge for you.
I like to add one aspect to our whole argument. It's not only the games that has, or using games or throwaway aspect of certain part of games, environmental impact. I think we should worry about how much throwaway extra material gamers use while going through 2 hours play of one game. In McDonald's cups and food they eat that time. I've been to many conventions. Yeah, it's amazing amount of waste. You use the word straws.
Yeah.
And I was shocked to read America used 700 million straws a day. 700 million. If you convert that, even though it weighs 10 grams, it's a few thousand tons of straw, plastic, used and get thrown away. And if somebody uses 10 cups of Coca-Cola, I think we should, just a side aspect.
I know that from Ocean Crisis, I know that, plastic bottles, we consume, for each minute in the whole world, we consume 1 million plastic bottles. 1 million for every minute.
So what is a board game? Thank you so much. Romina Schwark, Chiwai Lin, Rajive Gupta, Nugroho und Jelena Kuhn. And I would like to take your questions for the participants, because I think they like to talk on. If there are any questions from the audience.
Oh, we have some questions.
Yes, Please.
My question is, because we have a lot of board games at home, I'm a consumer, and often the pieces, the little meeples, the little cubes, they're quite the same. And I wouldn't mind buying a game in the future, missing those, because I can use from my other games. Will that be something that you as producers see as a possibility?
Well, if consumers are willing to buy it, we'll love it. Yeah?
I think
We'll
it's
have to provide that.
I think it's a very interesting idea, but I think it might be difficult to in the everyday life, because you might already have those, but another person doesn't have them yet. So it would be difficult to use it like this. But I think it's interesting.
And also, it's important that people, when they buy a game, it's not only material they look for. They look for the intellectual property part and the artistic and imagination, what a designer and producer offered them. So meeples, you'll find two same type of meeple. Similar function, yes. Yeah, so people like to say, if there's a meeple is their buyer, their worker, so worker looks different, the way theme says. Yeah, so if you break down all the games to very basic, we have a prototype, so we don't need to produce any more games. Just to give an example. So, yeah, so game it's not only a material, paper, cardboard, or meeple, or plastic dice, or anything else. It's the atmosphere we try to bring, the theme, which we sometimes spend a lot of months and sometimes a couple of years to develop a game. Yeah, and I always said, like in our company, I think we have a very good mix of a female and male part. Yeah, but me as a CEO, I always feel, and I don't want to offend that I can feel how women feel pregnant. Yeah, but every time we come to two fairs, I always feel we're pregnant and we are having a new child given to fair. We look for everybody's face. Do you like it, our game? Like a newborn child is looked at, every mother, every parents want the child to be loved by and appreciated by. Yeah, and sometimes they say, yeah, it's good. No? Yeah, okay, that's the way life is. So come back to you. So this is what we always try to imagine something new, what we can bring theme. So it's wishful thinking. It makes our life very easy if we can basically harmonize one product line. We can't.
Another question here. Yeah.
I would like to connect to the question before. I'm also a small game company called Gaia Games in Hall 5, of course. We, for example, use organically certified beans as tokens for the game. So they can get everywhere in every store. Like if you lose some, even you can plant them back. I would like to ask you how you see the company itself as a part of a better world. I mean, if it's still a really profit-orientated company, it has all the things which can go wrong there. Is there so much hierarchy inside the company? Like, how do you tackle these kind of layers of society? It's not only the game and the production, but how does the company itself interact and how do they treat their employees and all the stuff?
Answer only Jumbo can give. They're the largest company sitting here. He said Queen Games is large. Queen Games, we are only 8 people in the company. We are very small.
Large
probably
booth.
smaller than yours. Yeah?
So Jumbo Games, maybe?
Please.
Yeah, Jumbo is part of the Jumbo DZ group. So we have 2 headquarters, one in Barcelona, one in Amsterdam. And we are more than 200 employees. And in Germany, we are only 6 people. And I only can talk for Germany right now because this is where we have the control over. And we are working how to say it, but we are really thinking of how can we limit our CO footprint also in the office. So we only have recyclable paper. It starts like with the small stuff you already can think of. And for me, I'm responsible for the marketing. So I really think of, okay, how do I spend my marketing budget? And when I do merchandising, that I think of, okay, is this made of recyclable materials and stuff? So we don't have plastic bags anymore since last year. We changed it to recyclable bags. So like the small things, yeah, but it starts there, I think. And in Amsterdam, I know my Amsterdam colleagues have the same vision in the same way. So I'm also very happy that we invented these recyclable games. And in Barcelona, it's a bit different. But we are educating each other, and we are very open also in our company to this topic, and learn from each other there as well.
I can only say for Queen Games that I will never sell a game which I won't want to give to my children.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So that's offer your organic or non-organic question.
So
Jelena,
I want to add something.
Yes, because you were also talking about how the company is taking care of the employees, and I think that's a very important point, because I think it's a global approach. Actually, you want to do good to the environment, you want to do good to people, and you also need to do good to your employees. So that's a very important thing. At Bioviva, for example, we say that we're bringing games full of goodness for us, for the others, and for the world. And that also is accounting for the employees. It's very important for us that everybody's always feeling good at work. We are having a team which was, coaching of the team, so we can always improve our working together, and so that everybody is feeling good.
Thank you. Any more questions? One more question there in back.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Thomas, and I'd like to ask about the card games issue, because you have like these big card games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, and Yu-Gi-Oh! That wrap individual like 15 cards in a foil. And you mentioned the big issue about the foil. So do you think it's like solvable to the foil packaging? Because it's part of the product and part of the experience. Like a new set comes out and you buy the box and it has like 36 booster packs. And every like 15 cards are individually packaged, and just people buy it to actually open it. Like, do you think you can change something about it?
We don't do any trading cards, so I cannot answer that question. But I agree with you. And if it's a part of fun to open a plastic foil bag, I think it's a bigger fun if you open a big box. You have a lot more to look into it.
Yeah. When I was in high school, our school played a lot of Magic cards. So they have like these huge boxes of those wasted cards. You know, like very big boxes in my classroom. These cards, they just keep it there. They're not played. So I think that's what happens with those very fast card games. For example, the one in Hall 1. I think a lot of my friends, they open like 50, 100, 200 packs of those card games. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not that kind of a gamer.
But I cannot see all these Magic cards coming in paper bags. I cannot see that happening.
I think that's something we need to think. I think it's at the company actually who needs to be innovative and who needs to create new tools. I actually saw it yesterday somewhere. They are now doing little paper bags, so it's much better, and actually it could be possible to use it to replace. I see what you mean, but
it's not place, and I will not dare even to make a comment how other companies should do the packaging.
No, of course not.
So exactly. No, so that was, I just happened to mention that to you. Yeah, but I think how Magic, Wizards, or they want to prepare their products or how they want to do it. And I think I'm nobody to suggest them what they should do. You as a consumer, of course, you have all the rights to do it.
All right. Just
follow up for a second. Like, even if you have a local game store and a new set comes out, they have like sessions where they crack open the boosters just to get the stock, you know?
Yeah,
they cannot order a set in bulk.
Yeah, I think you need to talk to your local retail shop, and I think it's a very good issue, and he can communicate with their manufacturer and suppliers.
Yeah, but they cannot obtain the cards without the packaging. They still need to open it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know it's a big issue. We did a lot of the ring cards at the time.
You cannot get like a huge amount of cards at once without the packaging from the manufacturer.
So, but I think that's
all right.
We cannot solve that.
Here's one more question. Yeah.
So yeah, you guys mentioned about like how the consumer demand is part of the drive and stuff, and so I was wondering, how do you think like consumers can best convey their interest in these new like sort of like forward-thinking games in terms of ecology and how recyclable they are? Like, what's the best way for consumers to let like big retailers know that there should be these changes happening?
I think it's a matter of acceptance. If there's a scratch on a box, are they willing to accept that? Then we can go with the labeling, which is a very nice solution for it, very environmental friendly, because we just get rid of one-time use of foil. Yeah, but my experience of 30 years shows consumer is not willing to accept any scratch. Now, we used to do carom board. This is what we started with. I stopped doing carom board because of this all internet media. And there's a natural wood mark. Yeah, knots of wood comes in, and people complain, and they didn't want to have it. Yeah, and I realized that this social media and everything is too strong, and I did not want to process any wood to make it look like plastic wood. Yeah, so we stopped doing carom board, and that's something like, it's a consumer if they accept it, and retailers. Retailers, I think, is the strongest key in between, because they have a direct contact with consumer, and if they can educate them. Like we have online stores, sometimes we get something small packet and such a big outside box. And that is ecological problem there.
Plus there's a lorry rolling around town instead of you going to your local game shop with public transportation.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about driving there or lorry, but I think my point is, if it's an outer box, it's 80% the one-time use box. Yeah, and when that comes in, and consumer, if they don't complain to Amazon or whoever they do, or online retailers, and I think that they will keep on doing it. This is the point to him, is the consumer has to go back. Yeah, and consumer power is the biggest power. Not as big as women's power, but they have a very strong power.
I think besides retailers, I think social media, like a lot of people talk about games on social media, YouTube, Twitter, so on. Especially for these social media, these people, they have power to lead trends. So if they talk about I have scratch, or this is non-plastic, this is cool, then that will be something that will lead more people to think this is acceptable, or maybe this is what I'm doing for our world. So that this kind of move happens in other domains. I mean, not the board games, not the toys, but other domains. So I think if it starts to happen in the board games, like these social media opinion leaders, they talk about it, I think that also works, besides retails.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. And I also, what you just said before, that you teach your customers that this is okay to have these stickers, and then they started to accept it because you educated them, like, yeah, what kind of a good impact this has. And I think this is coming more and more. So also the retailers will learn.
Yes, I think the customers are getting more and more aware of the importance, and I think the retail and the stores, they will follow, I hope. They will need to follow, because I think that's what the customers will ask one day. So.
Yeah, basically just amplify everything. As customer, we can just start to appreciate every product that have a good quality and good environmental impact. So, I mean, by appreciating, by putting some comments or just posting it and just put more appreciation into it, and I think we can start from that.
Thank you very much, everybody. Keep up the customer power and have a nice weekend, have a nice day here at the fair.